Hi, I'm Elle McNicoll and I'm the author of Some Like It Cold, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the importance of neurodivergent representation in books. Very serious, very, no, I'm an autistic author, and I've been a reader for almost my entire life, but I don't think I picked up a book with an autistic main character until I was about 16, and it wasn't a romance, which is what Some Like It Cold is. And I spend a lot of my career talking about why neurodivergent representation is important. When I started out in this industry, the number of neurodivergent protagonists in children's literature, including young adult literature, was 0.0001%, which was data that I collected myself, and I that's a little mathematics, but it was as an appalling statistic. And so a lot of what I'm trying to do in my writing is bring all kinds of neurodivergent representation to different genres, and of course Some Like It Cold is a love story. I think this is so important because as an autistic woman, I talk a lot sometimes about how bad representation sometimes is a little bit worse than no representation. And in the cultural zeitgeist, in the wider cultural context, autistic people, we're not seen in romances, we're not seen in love stories, and if we are ever in a romantic context, and this is usually more on TV than in the book world, but it's always quite infantilizing. They always put like silly music underneath us when we're like going on a date, and they make us go through all of these neurotypical kind of customs, and it's never about our lens, our frame, our world. It's always through the neurotypical gaze. And so I really want to always bring stories that have all kinds of nuance. They have the good parts about being neurodivergent, the parts that make you feel so alive and so capable, and then the parts that are very difficult, the parts that can make it, you know, hard to leave the house, and then the parts that are kind of neutral as well. So it's trying to kind of explore being neurodivergent, in my case being autistic, in a really complex way, looking at all of the different nuggets of truth in that experience and being specific and having a point of view. And I think it's so important to have that in all genres, but particularly in romance, because I got so much self-worth from reading romance as a teenager. I loved it. It was my escapism. It's how I got through high school. So the idea of to think about autistic girls being excluded from this genre I love so much, it's painful, and I wanted to write a story with an autistic girl where there is no silly music playing underneath. It's romantic, it's fun, there's agency, there is, you know, she's the most kind of beloved person in her small town. She's not treated like a burden or an object of pity, and that was really important to me. And I really hope that when people pick up Something Like It Cold, they get a great love story, they get a universal love story, they get a story with a lot of drama and a lot of small town gossip, but maybe just some of the people that pick this book up will also get a character that they probably haven't seen before, and hopefully one that makes them feel seen, maybe even for the first time. So why don't we see a lot of neurodivergent representation in publishing? I mean, I've been asking that question for the last 5 years, but one of the reasons I think we don't is actually why there's a big lack of conversation about disability in general in all aspects of life, not just in publishing. I think a lot of people are very nervous of disability, and in my case, being autistic is a disability. People are nervous of it. They think it's something frightening. They've also been really conditioned to think that disability is always sad. It's always going to end in heartbreak. It's always going to end in tragedy. And there are real reasons to believe that because of the way disability has been framed in the past. But in the case of Some Like It Cold, it was so important to me to have joy throughout, important to have pride throughout, important to have high emotional stakes, but nobody dies in this book. Nobody gets seriously hurt or injured. So I'm hoping that people can look past maybe a little bit of discomfort and nerves and realize that a love story with a disabled protagonist, and any story that's joyful with a disabled protagonist, is worth just as much as someone with a non-disabled protagonist. And you don't need to be scared because she's autistic. She would be your friend. She's nice, I promise. I think it's really important that neurodivergent writers are given the opportunity and that they can see that you should be writing in any genre you feel like. For a long time it felt like disability in books had to always be an issue book, and this is not an issue book. This is a love story, and I hope neurodivergent writers can feel inspired, even if they're very young writers, if they haven't even written a word yet. I hope that it can inspire you to remember that autistic people and neurodivergent people and disabled people belong in every kind of story, in every genre, and there are no rules. You are free to write whatever you like. And even if you're not neurodivergent yourself, maybe Jasper can open a little door so you can meet somebody who is, and I'm sure you'll realize that you have way more in common with her than you do not have things in common with her. In conclusion, I'm really proud and really happy that neurodivergent girls have a love story all of their own in Some Like It Cold, and I would really, really love, if you're autistic or not, if you would pick up a copy of Some Like It Cold. Thank you.